I'm at the Stanley Gap Trailhead in Blue Ridge, Georgia, ready to do my first mountain ride on the 2018 Giant Trance 2. I've done a couple rides on my local trails in Florida that are obviously pretty flat, so now it's time to put this thing in the natural habitat, see how it does. This trail will be a true test of the climbing ability of this bike because there's not even any warm-up. The only warm-up you can do is to put it in the lowest gear and just to spin as easy as you can. It starts going up right from the parking lot. Like I said in the opening video, the first look of this bike, the shock is a little soft in the mid-setting, and so staying in the saddle is the best way to climb. I could probably put some volume spacers in that shock. I've actually never messed around with volume spacers in a rear shock, only the front. So you could probably do that. I might end up trying to firm it up a little bit. You don't want to add too much PSI because then you lose the suppleness of the shock. Still want it to be small bump sensitive. So, like I said, also in that video, this bike's about 30 pounds. I'm going to compare it to my Carbon Trance tomorrow, but you know, you can feel the weight a little bit. This isn't a bike you're going to set a Strava climb record on, but it'll do the job. Like any good trail bike, just want it to get up the climbs without too much fuss, so you can come downhill pretty fast and in control. So we're going to see how it works in that application. You probably cannot tell how steep this trail is on the video. It's probably a good 20 to 25% grade right here. Tires have a lot of traction. They've got some pretty high rolling resistance, but traction is good. Nothing tests the shifting abilities like shifting under load on a steep climb, and so far so good. This bike shifts really well. Like I said, the SLX is a little more muted compared to the XT stuff on my other bike, but it's not too bad. Shifts really well under load. Here, I'm going to power up this. Shift under load does its job. I am climbing in the 30-46, so the biggest cog in the back, easiest gear, and it seems to be pretty good. Even though that last pitch I did was really steep, I didn't feel like I needed any smaller of a gear. Any smaller, you'd have to be walking. Also want to mention that I'm climbing right now with the shock in the middle position. I could lock it out on this, but there are times when you come over a little root garden or rock garden, you want the suspension to conform to give you traction. So I'm going to put it in the middle, in the locked setting. When it's locked, it's not like fully locked out, but it's pretty firm. It would be fine on the road. I'll probably use the lock setting a little bit more on this bike than my other Trance, just simply because this bike has that softer mid setting. So it does, like if I bounce, it will move, the shock will move in the lock setting, but not very much at all. Oh, another steep pitch. Can you see it on the GoPro? Oh, here we go. Oh, and the wind goes away and it gets twice as hot. A little rocky right here, so this is where I leave it in the middle setting. I have the fork when I'm climbing set in what I call the middle position, so the compression knob also known as the lockout knob, is at the 3 o'clock position, slightly past, call it 3:30. And I said in the opening video I thought the fork was the Performance series. I don't think it is, because the Fox Performance series comes with a Fit 4 damper in the front, whereas this one has the Rhythm damper. Coming up to a section that I rarely clear because there's a big root right after another one, and you have like no momentum because it's super steep. I'm gonna give it a shot. Get the momentum. All right. Yeah. I've only made that thing a couple times. Oh. Dude, there's no wind on me. I feel like I'm in a hot yoga class with no wind on me. Not that I've ever done a hot yoga class and never will, but still, it's hot. Coming up on another section that, again, I've only cleared once or twice. It's just really tight and steep. Oh, what line am I gonna go? I'm gonna go left. No, I'm gonna go right. Oh my gosh. That took a lot out of me. Alright, here's our first little downhill section. Doesn't get too crazy yet. I dropped the chain. Ha! First downhill section, I dropped the chain on this bike. Okay, chain back on, let's roll. Wrong line. Crap. It's been a while since I've ridden this trail. I should have gone right. You know what, let's do that again. Should go right here. There we go. Tight through here, it opens up a little bit later, I think. Turkey. Okay, so I've gone up the mountain and down the mountain, and now I got to go back where I came from. So it's back up. So this bike, This is the heaviest bike I've ever climbed this trail on. I don't remember pushing that hard up this climb. So it'll be interesting to see how I feel when I get back on my carbon trance. I'm going to do the same trail tomorrow to get a really good comparison. But it felt like, I mean, I'm in pretty good shape right now. I'm gearing up for cyclocross season. But man, with no wind and it being pretty hot and humid, I was hurting. So on the downhill, this bike felt great. The shock was really supple, so much so I stopped at one point and checked my rear tire. So with it being a little softer, it really feels supple on the downhills. The tires stayed glued to the trail. Braking was good. Really good braking traction with these Maxxis high rollers. They probably slow me down a little bit on the climbs because of the little bit increased rolling resistance that I feel. But on the downhills, these tires are great. Felt pretty, you know, this bike feels smooth. Aluminum wheels, even though they're not as light as carbon, have a little bit of give to them. And when you hit rock gardens, they feel really smooth. I still prefer carbon wheels just because of the ride characteristics, but not a deal breaker for a bike like this at all. You could ride this bike with the aluminum wheels and later on save up for some carbon. The aluminum frame and wheels feel really smooth on the rougher, chunkier descents. I like the bar width, 280. It got a little dicey on some tight tree sections, but it's a pretty good bar width. I don't think I'd want to go wider. I've said that before about some other bars like 250s, but this is probably the limit for me. But I like it, and if I decide to keep my carbon trance, I'll probably put wider bars on that bike. And the shorter stem feels good. When you hit the really tight stuff and you got to whip the bars back and forth to get around it, like around trees, this shorter stem, the 50, is nice, really nice. And I felt like I'm in a pretty good climbing position. And let me mention the dropper seat post. So the actuation on the dropper seat post is super smooth. It's a slower returning seat post than I've used on my other trances. There were a couple times where I nailed the button thinking that the seat post returned quickly, and I sat down, it wasn't there. So I get really used to, I like a faster returning post. Some people might like a slower one, like this one, but I actually prefer one that returns quickly because I slam the lever, sit down and start pedaling when the trail kind of goes up suddenly. So I'll get a little bit more video footage of some downhills because there are some good ones coming up. And I'll wrap up the review, the first mountain ride review, when I get back to the cabin. I'm back at the cabin that we're staying at, and since this video is getting a little bit long with all the riding footage, I'm going to end it now, and I'll make a second video, and I'll summarize in that video what I feel about the bike, things I like, things I don't like after riding it in the mountains. And that one will be more brief, and I'll show the bike up close. Once I get it posted, I'll put it in the description below so you can find it. Any questions or comments so far, leave them below. Thanks for watching.